Welcome everyone, this is hopefully the first of many new videos on this YouTube channel. Today we are going to compare the Framemeister versus the OSSC. Let's get started. First off, what do these things do? These will allow you to hook up your old video game systems using really good cables and display them on your TV, make it look like an emulator, all nice and pixelated on your flat screen TV, make it look nice, gorgeous, and pretty. First off, we have the xRGB Mini Framemeister. Now this is a scaler. This will actually take a lot of those older resolutions like 240p from older consoles and scale them to 480p, 720p, 1080i, 1080p, 50 Hz, 60 Hz for any standard high definition or flat screen television that's on the market today. Now compared to the OSSC, these things have a lot more options. You can adjust the zoom, the size, the pick, the color, a lot more things you can do with it. This also has the benefit of having an HDMI output where the OSSC does not. They skipped out on the HDMI output to cut cost. It also has S-video and composite in. And honestly, if you're going to be spending the kind of money for one of these two things, you should not be using composite on any of your stuff. You should spend the money for S-video minimum, if not SCART cables. Another nice feature with the Framemeister is it actually has some HDMI pass-through ports on this. If you're running low on HDMI ports on your receiver or your television, that makes a nice little add-on to this. Also, my Sega Dreamcast, I use a Vga cable and a Vga to HDMI adapter. However, my Elgato HD does not like to capture video off that very well. But when I run all that through here and then capture it, I'm able to capture that with no issues. So if you have an HDMI device that you're trying to video capture and your video card or your PC or your capture software is not recognizing that very well, this may help with that. However, the drawback with these guys is they're much more expensive. I got this for just under 400 bucks off Amazon almost a year ago. Also, it does not come with a SCART adapter. It comes with a JP21 adapter. It looks exactly the same, completely different pinout. Do not experiment and try to see if it works. You have to buy a SCART adapter separately. Either adapter will plug in right here and you just plug the SCART cable into that. Also, the components. There's not a component input on this thing. You have to buy a component adapter as well. I like to plug the PSP into it and zoom it so it takes up the whole screen. Now, the OSSC, this is a pretty cool little unit. I'm actually a little more impressed with it, even though I kind of like the Framemeister a little bit more. This is not a scaler. This is a line doubler or a line tripler. And now with the newer firmware, it'll actually go above that. This takes a 240p signal and just doubles the resolution. So 240p changes it to 480p or triples it to 720p and up and up. Because it does that, there's no scaling. So there is very little input lag, less than a millisecond. I did back and forth comparisons between this and the Framemeister to test the input lag. I could barely tell the difference. I literally took both my Sega Genesis units with both copies of Sonic 2 that I have and just switch it back and forth. One Genesis was hooked up to the OSSC, the other Genesis was hooked up to the Framemeister. I had them hooked up to each different video inputs, both set at 480p to make sure that the input lag was not caused by my TV scaling. I could barely tell the difference. It was really, really small. If I didn't know what to look for, I probably could not tell. The Framemeister's input lag compared to hooking it directly to the TV is actually pretty small and pretty good, depending on your TV. Though at the OSSC, however, if you are very picky on input lag and that is your primary reason for trying to pick one of these two, I would go with this one. It's got the component and the SCART built in, so there's no need for any adapters for doing any kind of video input for those two connectors. It does not have composite and it does not have S-video. Like I said earlier, if you're using composite, you shouldn't even be forking money out for these things. However, S-video is kind of a problem because if you're playing the Nintendo 64, the highest video quality you can get on that console without modding it is through S-video. That's another reason why I like the Framemeister over this thing. Also, even though it does do component and I can hook the PSP up to it, it looks great. I've not found a way to stretch that out so it takes up the full screen on the television. So unless you've got some really, really good zoom options on your TV, I would recommend not using this for a PSP unless you don't mind the whole black borders around the whole screen. If that doesn't bother you, then great. If it does, Framemeister over this. Also, another problem is there is no HDMI output. You need a DVI to HDMI adapter to plug into this thing to get an HDMI output. Another problem with that is there's no way to get audio throughout the HDMI. According to their website, some of the newer ones will do that, or there's some little audio circuit you can hook up into this to output that when going from SCART. However, I have not tried that or tested it out. So plan on using some kind of audio switcher or using your receiver to switch audio. The OSSC is also much cheaper than the Framemeister. I paid around $200 for mine. However, they're a little harder to get. You got to be put on a waiting list for it unless you can score one off of Craigslist or eBay. The OSSC also has a VGA input for those using a VGA output with a Sega Dreamcast. Unless you're wanting to get into like the real nitty scaling options for some good customization, I found this to be a little bit simpler. You just plug your SCART cable into for whatever system you're using, whether it's Super Nintendo, Genesis, Sega Saturn, whichever, and it just works. Just a lot less fiddling. However, one of the major problems with this unit is compatibility with a television. 480p I didn't have too much problems with on either of my flat screens. However, when switching to 720p or any resolution higher, my 55-inch plasma did not like it. My Sony 32-inch was okay with that, and a couple resolutions higher than that. Also, if you want to capture video for YouTube videos or streaming on Twitch, this may also be an issue, much in the same way that TV compatibility is. My Elgato HD would not capture anything above 480p on this. Framemeister, I have no issues at all capturing through HDMI. So yeah, which one would I get if I didn't have either? I'd probably go with a Framemeister just because it has a lot more scaling options and it's much easier to capture video. The icing on the cake for me was plugging the PSP into it and play my PSP games at full screen, and they look beautiful aside from a little bit of noise. Now if I had an OSSC and I didn't have a Framemeister, would I spend the extra money to get the Framemeister? Only if I found one for really cheap. If I had an OSSC and not a Framemeister, I could easily live with it. It's still a really good unit. I just like the Framemeister just a little bit better. Thank you for watching, everyone. That concludes this video. Please subscribe down below, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Another nice thing about the OSSC is it has a Vga input. So if you're using a Sega Dreamcast, or if you have one of those first model Xbox 360s, why don't you look at the 360 of this? Fucking retard.